Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is April the 27th, 2018. Strong hand. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Okay. We're a little late to start, but that has just got you all enticed and ready for this show. It is 9 p.m. in London, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. We've got Chris Black coming in from the East Coast, Russell Spears coming in from the East Coast, and Brian Wallace is making his debut on the show. He is coming in from England, London, probably, yes, jolly old England. So we have had it's been a week where a lot of people are talking about the price, and you know how I know that one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. And of course, if you want to know more about these dudes, check out the links below. I linked to each one of them below, or at least I should have. I was in a rush to prepare the show. Anyway, but so since people like to, we'll get it out of the way. About bear market, bull market, what's going on, Russell? What is going on? Just tell us what's going on. I mean, whatever you want to say.
Well, look, I think the Bitcoin has consolidated at a certain price. I think there's enough people wanting to maintain a support there. But look, I'm like you. To me, I see long term. I think, right now, whatever it is, people are misjudging this technology drastically. But I think mainstream media is starting to appreciate some of its basic ideas there. It's not so much medium of exchange, in my opinion. It's store of value. And I keep hearing this.
All right. What do you have to say about that, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I still think that we are getting, we know that what drove the price up was people who didn't really know that much about Bitcoin. They couldn't understand it. They just knew that the price was going up and they wanted to jump on it as it was going up. And then when it crashed, it was those people exiting. And I think now we're getting to a point where we need to, as the people that know what's going on, we need to start thinking about how can we educate people in the field once again, because the next wave is going to come in, and we're going to shoot up to 20, 30,000, and we're going to be in the same situation where we're going to go off a cliff and we're going to go back down to $6, $7, $8, $10,000. So we need to start thinking now about what do we do when we reach 20, 30,000, and we have all these newbies in the field that need education, and we need to be better prepared next time.
Oh, I tell you what we should do. We should make sure that as strong hands, we should be prepared to pull out a little bit and put a little bit back in to discipline it. Look, if they're going to put money in our pockets, go ahead and let them do it,
Well, what I think. Wait. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, I know that you advocate holding, but I think there's a strategy with this. I do actually live off my Bitcoin. And yeah. So to me, it's just I'll pull some out. I'm going to do one time at the top. And if it goes, if it continues to go up, I'm fine. I'm just going to use that money for the next year. But if it goes down, I'm going to be ready to discipline and take that Bitcoin back.
That's one way of looking at it. That's not really what I meant, though. What I meant was we as the community that understands Bitcoin, when we go up to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 next time, that growth is going to be driven by people who don't know anything about it. So the chance that we have, the opportunity that we have to keep them is going to be during that time after they bought in, but before they panic sell, right?
Yeah.
So we need platforms, we need websites, we need blogs, we need materials, videos out there starting now, because we know that's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's inevitably going to happen.
How long do you think it took you to understand and appreciate Bitcoin the way you do right now?
I mean, I'm still learning every single day.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, it was a one-day process as far as the switch flipping in my head. So once that switch flips, you're down the rabbit hole. And but for most of these people, it hasn't happened yet.
And this is a very good segue into Brian, because he is relatively new to Bitcoin compared to us, and he is all about educating the newbies, and he has gone through the process of self-education. So Brian, why don't you say a little bit about, the present state of Bitcoin, but also about your journey to Bitcoin and what you're trying to do.
Okay, I'll put my video on, so hopefully it'll work, and if it doesn't, let me know.
No?
Okay. Well, briefly, if I may, for the new people looking at this a bit like me, 12 months ago, I was happily going about my life. I'd never heard of Bitcoin. And I got a phone call from a business colleague of mine that said, I'm going to say one word to you. I'm going to say no more. I need you to love it. I need you to go and research Bitcoin. And of course I said, what is that? And he said, I'll send you 2 or 3 links. And honestly, and I mean this, as soon as I saw it, I got it. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was right for me. I knew it was the future. Yeah, I looked at a lot of the old videos with King of the Trolls and everything else on it, and saw all of that and took all of it in and thought, there is nothing that can stop this. There is absolutely nothing that can stop this. And I literally have watched every single video of yours, Adam. I haven't missed one. I've watched as many as I can from Andy Hoffman, World Crypto Network. I've literally just started my own channel this week. The first video went out Monday, the second one went out yesterday. And my goal is just to educate brand new people in the space that, like me, didn't know where to start and didn't have a clue. When I first joined, my colleague told me to go and do a paper wallet. So I went and did that. And then when I got my Trezor, I realized what an absolute nightmare I'd got myself into, on paper wallet. So for me, I'm going to be, my job is, you guys, you can do the techie stuff. You guys are brilliant at this. I listen to you. Russell, I've heard you before. Chris, I've heard you all. And you guys are fantastic at the techie stuff, but I'm not. I've got a basic understanding of the blockchain, how we're going to build stuff on top of it. What I want to do is just talk to brand new people that go, help, what am I supposed to do? That's my job. That's all I want to do in this space. I don't understand charts. I don't want to. I've looked and they did my head in. I just know that if I hold on to my Bitcoin, and I am Mr. Hodler, really, there is absolutely not one element of me that wants to get rid of Bitcoin, worries about it. I was hoping the price would go back down to 2,000, so I could go and buy a whole lot more, to be honest with you. So, I am a maximalist. I know Bitcoin's the future. I know Bitcoin's going to give me my pension. I've got a couple of my daughters in their 30s that are on there watching this. So when I say it's going to be in the will for them, don't knock me off too soon, guys, but that's why I'm involved in it, because, from what I've learned, I just can't see anything stopping it.
Now, speaking of long-term thinking here, first of all, everyone, pound that like button. I forgot to say that. But Brian, you come from you got a unique perspective on this. You're not 60 years old yet, but we've got people here that are, they're 40 years younger than you and stuff. So they see the 2028 halving, or I tell those dudes about the 2028 halving. I'm like, dude, you're 18 years old or whatever. You should just save up until then. Use it as a total savings account until 2028. You're going to be on your way to turning almost 70 by the year 2028. What are your plans for Bitcoin over the next 10 years?
Okay. Well, for me, it's buy and hold and accumulate whatever I can. Obviously, you've all got to live, you've got to pay your mortgage and everything else. So you can only do that when circumstances allow you to do that. I'm drumming it into my kids and even my ex-wife, bless her, to set up something where you're buying a little bit every month and building a savings account for yourself, because, that 100 quid, and they're a lot younger than me, remember, that 100 quid in maybe 15, 20 years could be something pretty special for them. So I'm trying to get them to do that, and bless them, they pay me a bit of lip service, but that's what kids do, and I was a kid once. So I'm trying to do that, but for me, I've got to balance it between the fact that I'm 60 next year, and the fact that, I want Bitcoin to give me a good retirement and see the world a bit, and, maybe a new car or something, whatever it might be. So for me, I personally think, I lost my dad at 73, bless him, and so that plays on my mind. So for me, at 2024 is probably going to be at the point where I'm going to have to look at saying, right, I've amassed what I've amassed, how am I going to live the rest of my life? Now, for me, it might be, depending on what Bitcoin does, a chunk out and maybe a holiday home or something, and then money so that we can live off Bitcoin and enjoy the rest of our life on Bitcoin. That is my absolute plan. I keep drumming it into my lady. I'm absolutely serious that if we keep amassing what we can when we can, I've got several Bitcoin already, not bits of, full Bitcoins. So if I can amass where I can, I believe passionately in my heart that 2024 is probably for me when I've got to look at where I'm at and then decide which route I take.
So you would say now to people that are going to be 70 in the next decade, in the later part of the next decade, that, you know what, it's still early to get into Bitcoin, and you can create a 2024 post-halving retirement plan almost. I mean, you should have a show about that, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's see where it all goes. Yeah, but definitely, it isn't too late. You know, the challenge we've got, and remember, I am older than you guys. The challenge we've got is I think I'm 1 in a million. You know, I'm thinking like you guys. I'm thinking like the 20 and 30-year-olds. That's my head's there. But most of the people around me, including, you know, family members, extended family, and mates and things, you know, they when I talk to them about Bitcoin with enthusiasm, they go, "Yeah, I might have to look into that." Brain dead. Come on. Don't look into it. And I'm trying to get over to them that the price is down right now. We did 20 grand December the 17th. It's come back. Now is the time, if you're going to get a little bit. Sorry.
I want to say, so people, just because you're 55 or over, that's no excuse. I hope this serves as an inspiration for that crowd. Get on in. There's a lot of potential then, and you can learn. If you're teaching it, you'll teach it to any age. But I think you're definitely an inspiration, and you're showing a different demographic of Bitcoin that we don't usually see in these videos and stuff. So thank you for joining us here today. I want to say, Chris, you've been going around. You were just at a big event. We're talking about education here with Russ. We're talking about education here with Brian. But you were like at a really one-on-one type of education event in Chicago. Tell us what that was all about and what that really means for the space and some of the drama that kind of went around other events that were talked about. You know, there's drama concerning how much you pay for an event, basically.
Yeah. And before I do, I just have a comment about what Brian said, which is fantastic. And I love the story about how you got involved in Bitcoin. And it sounds like the number one thing to take away is you did not get involved with Bitcoin because of the price. You got involved with Bitcoin because you started to understand the core principles. Am I right? And you started to appreciate the technology behind it. And the price is a whole separate factor, but it sounds like you got into it because of the technology aspect, even though you don't fully understand it, right?
You're dead right, Chris, but there's something else as well, and that is, you know, I've listened to when Adam's had the Venezuelan people on, and I've listened to what's happening in other countries.
Right.
You know, and I'm a guy that's got a policy of first do no harm. If I can do some good somewhere, you know, and for me, I just think if we can get this message out to the world, and the faster we can get it out to the world, we can help some of those countries that don't have access to banks and everything else. So there's the libertarian bit as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm in this for my own reasons financially, but you know, it's the whole thing. I didn't get into Bitcoin because I saw pound notes and Lambos. Don't really interest me. Yeah. I got into Bitcoin for all of the reasons, you know, and you know, I'm never going to understand charts and talk like you and Russ and everyone else that does on Twitter, but I can do my bit because the way I see it, 90% of people that are joining us are going to be newbies that don't understand this. And I think what we've got to do is, yes, we're going to have the institutions coming in and the banks and everything, but surely with 7 billion people on the planet, the masses are going to be ordinary folk that want to get in and get a bit of a savings plan. You know, I've got one of my videos just coming up. I mean, I can't do what Adam's doing live, so I'm sort of recording them. And it's talking about, you know, you put 1,000 quid in a savings account in England, and at the end of the year, you might get 30 quid. You know, put your 1,000 quid in Bitcoin, and at the end of the year, that might just double.
So I just wanted to look at my throw that out there. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because it sounded to me, I was thinking the retirement plan works for you because you get it, right? And the retirement plan wouldn't work for everybody who's close to 60 because they don't get it and they don't understand the way the price is going to fluctuate and things like that. So it's like, get in there if you can and you understand it. But if you don't, take the time to understand it before you do. And I didn't mean to derail the other conversation. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
But I think what you said, it really is what I was trying to say myself, is that we can't help. The information is really out there. I think he's a great example of just getting out there and having an open mind. look, there's a small percentage of penetration right now in terms of the people who are wanting it or actually holding it. And it's still early, but I don't see this taking such a long time. I just don't know if people, once they get it, that they're not going to put 2% behind it.
I think the youth will get it. And that leads to a question from the audience, or a comment from the audience. Before we get to Chris, I wanted to say something to Brian. Brian, there is a guy in the chat right now who I know, who is over 50, and he is saying that you are 1 in a million, basically, and that people your age are very resistant to change. I mean, what do you see people your age jumping in on this, or do you agree with this guy that you're 1 in a million and that people your age are generally resistant to change?
Okay, firstly, if I can, do you know something? I may be 58, but I feel 30. Okay, so I don't feel like an old person. I have to say that the guy that introduced me is the same age as me. You know, so there's another one. But I think you're right. Most people that are around my sort of age are sort of resistant to it. They think it's going to be one of those things. It's going to fall flat on its face. It's going to be the bubble. I've heard about all this sort of thing before. And, you know, I spend so much energy trying to get people to listen. My brother, being a case in point, who keeps saying, I must get some, I must get some. Get some! You know, sort of thing. So I think most people my age, close quotes, they are resistant to change. I do.
That's a good segue, actually.
Which is a shame. Which is a
shame. Because I was at an event 2 days ago in Chicago that was run by Andreas Antonopoulos, who I'm sure everybody knows is one of the most eloquent speakers on Bitcoin. And his podcast, Let's Talk Bitcoin, they had their 5th anniversary. They decided to do it, a live episode on stage in the Music Box Theater in Chicago in front of 700 people, which was fantastic. Wow. They sold 700 tickets at $40 a piece in 3 days. And 700 people who absolutely love Bitcoin, not because of the price, and not because of what they can trade it for, and not because of Lambos and moonshots, but because of the principle behind it, because of the possibility that exists with it. And very much like you, Brian, not everybody there was a fully technical thinker, you know, but it's, once you understand the principles behind it, you get that enthusiasm that you just want to be part of the community. And I talked to at least 3 people there who were 50 plus and who were in the same boat. And I don't think that, no offense, you're probably a fantastic guy, but I don't think you're 1 in a million. I think there's a lot of people out there who are capable of understanding the basic possibility and opportunity that comes with this technology. And as soon as you get there, you don't have to fully understand how consensus works and how hash rate works and how blockchains even work. You really just have to understand the possibility, the opportunity, and the security. And once you get those things down, you start to see, okay, this is the digital gold, you know, but better than gold. And that's when you really start to want to be a part of it.
Well, I found that it's not so much about understanding, it's about appreciating the moment, appreciating this technology, not only for what it could do or how you understand it's going to work, but I mean, look, fundamentally, we have new money now. It's free market money. And it's going to open up a lot of opportunities where it didn't exist before. Right now, we're seeing examples of decentralization in money, but I'm also saying that this is also going to fund. It's going to put capital in people like in my hand. I'm not worried about Lambos. I'm worried about a bunch of junk. To me, what I want to do is I want to decentralize work with that. I want to take that same notion and I want to apply it to work. And I want to support democratically run worker cooperatives. I know this is just a new as an idea, and it's confronted by, you know, hegemony and this traditional notions, but it's going to support a lot of things. There's a lot of projects, a lot of open platforms. I love to see this capital in the hands of disruptors, smart, intelligent disruptors. If it passes the average guy by, I don't think that will make a big difference. It may up the, you know, vacation, you know, stocks, and it may up, you know, some luxury items. But I think that if this capital can flow in a disruptive way and in a creative way. Like, honestly, I have at least 3 ideas myself I'm going to push. And I can imagine that there's going to be thousands of people like myself, hundreds of thousands of people that are quite competent in coding too. So they're smart, competent early adopters in this space. That's to me the most profound and exciting part. But the logic of this, I think, is still working itself out. And some people aren't appreciating Bitcoin for what it is. And to the narrative of like medium of exchange, I think that's dead. I think that should die, it should pass away, because it's almost a smokescreen. It makes people think that all these altcoins have a value, and they don't. They don't. There's store of value. There's a global permanent record ledger of agreement that we'll use for other things. But I'm telling you, everything that Bitcoin is already what it is. It's going to be built on top of it. Now, I'm not a coder, and I know Vortex had like corrected me that, no, Lightning is a part of Bitcoin, but I kind of do imagine it as a second layer technology. I could be wrong in that, but I think conceptually it's fine to do so. And imagine that you have these other layers for smart contracts and things like that. All of it built around Bitcoin core, and you're just going to see all the innovation happening around Bitcoin itself.
I wanted to say that, we're talking about how easy it is to, if you're stubborn when you're older, can you learn? In the chat, all of a sudden, all these people did start to say, "Hey, I'm over 50. I'm over 50. I'm into this. I understand it." So there are guys that have gotten into this, and I'm glad to see all ages out there. And if you're non-technical or technical, you're in for a heck of a ride here. Now, Russ, you brought up something about decentralization, actually, and here's a little. I'm going to bring up a topic. You guys can address it if you want to. If any of you have anything else to say about what we've been saying, say that also. But lately, there have been people that have been kind of perturbed at Bcash and Ethereum or who knows what, and they're talking about lawsuits and getting the government involved. That kind of seems like the opposite of the direction we should be going in. That seems to be like bringing this new awesome cryptocurrency thing back to centralization. Have you guys been hearing about this stuff, and what do you think about it? Or you can talk, Chris, or you might have something else to say. I might have interrupted you, but take it away.
No. Well, on that topic, I assume you're talking, I don't know what lawsuits you're talking about. I'm assuming it's just because of like trademark infringement and stupid stuff like that with Bitcoin. Like, I don't know.
It's surrounding fraud, possibilities of fraud. Yeah. The people over there on the Bcash side of this equation are trying to sell Bcash as Bitcoin. And you see when they download their wallet that it defaults to this, even though it's saying it's Bitcoin.
Russ, so what do you think of that? Do you think that they should be sued, or just...
Well,
I mean, there's education. We're out here to educate people.
It could be a double-edged sword, honestly. I mean, who knows? If this goes through, it'll make people least likely to try to take on Bitcoin as an open brand, But there's
you
that's the thing. I mean, I agree with that.
Nobody. It's open source.
Well, it is open source, but that still leaves open the question of fraud. I could.
I just find it really sad. I just find it so sad that we can't.
Nobody owns the word Bitcoin. Nobody owns the Bitcoin logo. It's
Bitcoin.com. It's suing Bcash. They're talking about suing Bcash, suing Bitcoin.com.
Right, for stealing the Bitcoin identity, right?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not a fan of a lot of the tactics that the Bitcoin Cash guys use and stuff like that. But one thing that I know for sure is that, you cannot sue somebody for the way that they use the word Bitcoin. You can't sue somebody for the way that they use the word email or FTP or Gopher or Telnet or any other internet protocol.
If you order 10 tons of bananas and I send you 10 tons of apples, I think there's a possibility of lawsuit.
Well, that's a different situation, because if they're buying something, if they're buying one thing and they're getting another, and there's a company involved in that transaction, then that's a whole different situation.
Yeah, and I believe they represent themselves as a company. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I agree with you. Like, I don't know how this will happen, but it's an interesting tactic, and it just adds to the nuance and the texture of this space that people don't appreciate.
I don't like bringing lawyers into this thing. I think we can all work it out. We can make it as a community, make it clear. Bitcoin.com is not about the real Bitcoin. I mean, and you know, if you're going to start buying stuff, you're going to learn a hard lesson if you really think you're buying Bitcoin and you're getting Bcash. I mean, that's the way you learn a lesson here. I don't and I forgot now what they're talking about with Ethereum and you know, people are pushing to make Ethereum, get the government involved and say it's a security, make it a securities to hurt Ethereum. Why should we care? Why? I mean, I don't care.
You got to look at the outcome. See, Roger Ver and that group, what they're doing really, honestly, is they're building a template. See, to me, the whole issue of Bcash, in my opinion, Bitcoin Cash, for those who don't know, it's either going to destroy the idea. It's that one possible attack that could just destroy the notion of storing value in any of these blockchains. Because if, like Tone Vay says, if they win, he's out. I'd be out because it won't store value there. Some other big bank will come in behind Roger and then Gian and all them guys and just come in and just do the same thing.
We can win from decentralized type of attacks, not trying to bring the government in or not trying to bring lawyers in. I'll put it that way. Wait, Brian has been quiet here. I want Brian to chime in. You had something to say about all this, and everyone in the chat really likes you. They like your style, so take it away.
Well, you know, coming from a non-techie background, I mean, I can see what's going on. I've been, you know, studying Twitter, and you know, I know what's going on, and you know, it is a double-edged sword. I agree with you, Adam, that you know, lawsuits, you know, it would do damage to space, but equally, you know, Roger, let's use his name. I will. He's got clout. You know, he's got money, and there's a lot of. And I am slightly concerned that, you know, the more and as Russell said, you know, banks start coming in behind him, you know, that could start swinging it the other way. I mean, that's just coming from a complete novice in terms of understanding the technology. I've always felt that, you know, if you knock another company, you knock your own industry. That's in my other business. Don't knock another company because you knock your own industry.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't want to knock Bcash because I've got free Bcash, but I just don't like what they're doing. I don't see why they have to be the way they are. That's just me.
I really like that approach. Don't knock another company because you're knocking your own industry. I like that. I like your experience has come in. You have wisdom there. That I really like it. Chris, what do you have to say about all this?
I mean, just one more thing about the tribalism and what's going on here. You know, I think we all need to keep in mind, you know, like that whole comment just now about don't knock another company because you're knocking your industry. In this case, there are no companies, there are no CEOs, there's nobody owning any of this, right?
Just an analogy. That was just an analogy.
No, I understand, but it's important to keep this in mind because a lot of followers of these different crypto brands are treating them like they are companies.
Well, some of them are.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have Dash, you have a company.
Yeah,
and we have grades of that.
Centralized.
Some of them are. And if you want a cryptocurrency whose name is protected and trademarked, then please go invest in you know what, Neo or some of these centralized things. I don't know. So you know, but in the case of Bitcoin, and in the case of Bitcoin Cash, and in the case of the other 925 Bitcoins that are out there, we need to keep in mind the only thing that's protecting the Bitcoin name is decisions that are made by wallet developers and exchanges for the most part, right? Exchanges are the ones that are saying, this is Bitcoin and this is Bitcoin Cash. You know, and if Roger Ver writes a check to an exchange and they say, you know what, now this is Bitcoin. What we used to call Bitcoin Cash is now Bitcoin. What's stopping that from happening? We need to not pride ourselves on the name. We need to pride ourselves on the bigger community and the bigger movement that's happening here.
Well, I believe that marketing has great insights on a lot of things. Look, you could take away, you know, the McDonald's brand away from a building and you just have a crappy building and crappy food. You know, the brand matters. And the deal is that, yeah, I agree. Like, this is the space we're in. But if somebody feels as though they've been, I guess, you know, offended, I guess, legally, they feel as though they have recourse, I say have at it, you know. I wouldn't encourage it. I wouldn't encourage prostitution, but I'm going to tell everybody can.
You know, I would encourage people to hire a lawyer and try to get resolved if they feel like a company, a legal entity, you know, has somehow pulled the wool over their eyes and fooled them into buying one product when they thought they were buying something else. That's absolutely something that you should use the law for. And there's no reason that we shouldn't bring the law into situations like that, you know, where there's a company, a legal entity that's screwing you over, you know. But when it comes to the bigger picture, you know, and looking at, and I'm 20 years a marketing guy, and I fully agree with you as far as the importance of the brand, but we all have to be realistic here. And we all need to remember that the name of it is in the ether. It's in the cloud, right? It's not really, it doesn't really exist. All that exists is the blockchain. You know, all that exists is the community around it. And that's what we really need to protect more than the brand itself.
Well, I tend to disagree. I think that Bitcoin Cash is a real existential threat. Honestly,
Brian, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, Adam, it's an argument that will rage on, and really the markets will decide, time will decide. You know, so there's an argument for both sides, isn't there? Really, I mean, I suppose, you know, I'm not. You guys really are talking stuff that goes right over my head, really. I just.
Well, the idea is there's actually bad. When you talk about markets, you're also talking about bad actors. People act in bad faith as well. And,
sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to keep going with that. Keep going with that.
No, hey, look, there's just going to be bad actors on both sides. No doubt about it, on both sides.
Companies and people. But the one thing that cannot be bad and cannot be a bad actor is code, right? And at the end of the day, all Bitcoin Cash is code. And at the end of the day, all Bitcoin is code. You know, there's nothing inherently bad about Bitcoin Cash. The problem is everybody's assigning human attributes to it because of the way that certain people are trying to promote it and trying to. So we got to keep in mind, too many people are assigning human characteristics to a short bit of code that happens to be called, you know, Bitcoin Cash by a certain group of people. And this tribalism is doing nothing except for hurting us and tearing us apart and slowing us down and slowing down innovation. So I just want, you know, and that goes for every other of the 2,000 cryptocurrencies out there. There's no reason we can't sit, like I sat with 700 people in a theater 2 days ago and have productive conversations about the benefits of this or that or the other cryptocurrency, you know, as opposed to name calling and assigning human attributes to code and just all of this nonsense. That's all it's doing is slowing us down.
I really like your point about assigning human attributes to code. Let's people got to think about that.
Anthropomorphism.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to say thanks for the $5 super chat, Robert C. Robert C was talking about Brian, and it was very complimentary. He reminds me of my grandpa. And that's all right. And his grandpa has been buying Bitcoin for 3 years regularly. He's definitely seen a lot in his life and has all the confidence in Bitcoin. And his grandpa is actually 85. Now you're a confident dude. That's what one wouldn't expect to be buying loads of Bitcoin. But yeah, Robert C's grandfather's doing it. You're doing it. Hey, there is no age limit on that. And there's no age limit to pounding that freaking like button, subscribing to this channel, and checking out the links section below.
And Brian, you know, just one thing, you know, you said a couple times that this is going over your head and that you don't fully get it all. But I'll tell you this, and you already know this, you get this stuff more than 99.9%, not just of people over 50, but of people, period. Okay, so you need to embrace your role, not just as somebody who's new walking into this and just listening to us, but now people want to listen to you. And you have a lot to say, not just to people over 50, but to everyone of every age. Because I can tell, I was on a flight to Chicago a few days ago. I sat next to a guy who was in his 30s. Not only had he never heard, you know, didn't know about Bitcoin, but he'd never heard the word Bitcoin before. He had never heard the word cryptocurrency. He had no idea what I was talking about. And I was able in 10 minutes to explain it to him to the point where he got excited about it. And you're fully capable of doing that. So don't downplay your ability to influence people.
Well, I think the whole point of it is that there's no experts. There is none. And you just really got to, you know, like even with this discussion we have about what the real Bitcoin is and anthropomorphisms, all this stuff. Look, at the end of the day, this is going to play out. And if you're smart, you'll attend, you'll listen, you'll watch, you'll see how this plays out. And it'll just be another example of how things become very nuanced. Our initial impressions, I don't see that they really operate too well, but we've seen this play out, this whole, you know, issue between two camps here. It's not so much tribalism, but it's saying, hey, this is the perspective I'm taking. This is the perspective you're taking. And you should be willing to defend that out there publicly too. Because there's reasons why I don't like Bcash.
Well, I think it's unique. I think it's great that people can secede if they want to. Bitcoin seceded from the financial system. Now if people don't like the way Bitcoin is, they can secede, do their own coin. Brian, you were going to reply to Chris. So
I was just going to say, the reason, I mean, I started watching you, Adam, and a few others, but you were the one that sort of, I don't know, that I feel an alignment with you. I mean, you could literally, and that's not to blow smoke up your rear, that is genuine. There's an alignment with my thought processes and your thought processes. I'm completely and utterly strong hand, long-term thinking, 2020, buy and hold and all that stuff. I get all of that. And I even drive my wife mad because she thinks I'm Adam Meister walking around the house because I can recite you. So let's just keep that in mind, okay? And I'll listen to the other guys. But for me, you know, I've watched Chris and I've watched Russ and Andy Hoffman and all the others, and it made me think, when I took a step back, I saw possibly, you know, 8 to 10 commentators, right, that I really feel that I can connect with and listen to and study. Okay. Tonebase is great, but it's all charts and stuff and it's over my head. I do like listening to Trace Mayer stuff. I find that really interesting. But I felt that there was a market for people that, you know, are looking at it and going, well, what is it? What am I supposed to do with it? You know, how is it going to work? And should I buy this cheaper coin? And I can get that stuff. And I know that I can educate people on the ups and the downs of why they should and shouldn't with altcoins and Bitcoin and everything else. So I felt there was a place, guys. I stepped into it. I like I said, I don't have the technical know-how, but I feel I've got something to offer.
Well, thank you very much for all those compliments. And you are showing the world out there, because there's certain people in our community who bash the boomers. Do not bash the boomers. They can do it too. They can play with the big boys also. This isn't just a young man. This is not just a young man's game. All right.
It's not.
No, it's not. And it's not just a man's game, although it is like 95% men there. So women, come play with the big boys if you want to. I mean, it's a free-for-all. Chris, come back. I want to tie back into your what you saw at the conference this week, and people also, what's been going on with Vitalik. It was not pleased about the price of. Well, who knows why he was not pleased with the CoinDesk event? But he brought up the price, and then a lot of people started talking about the difference between these ICO events and your type of event that you were at.
Yeah, I mean, there's two very distinct type of events that are going on in crypto, right? And there's, on the far end, on this side, is the conference with, you know, 1,000+ people, booths set up for ICOs and tokens and girls in bikinis shilling something or other. That's on the one end. On the other end is the meetup that's going on in a local community, ranging from super technical to more just sort of enthusiast meetups that are going on. And the event that I went to was sort of at the upper end of that side, right? It was like as big as you can get, but still be an organic and homegrown event. And it was 700 people, and it was sponsored by the local Chicago Bitcoin Open Blockchain meetup group. And Andreas Antonopoulos is hugely popular. If you haven't checked him out, please watch every single video he's got, because he's a fantastic explainer of this stuff. And he was there, and it was a really, really organic group. So Vitalik, I guess he was engaged to show up at the Consensus Conference in New York, which is happening in May. And one of his issues was that, and it's been an issue of mine too, because I live right across the river from New York City, and Blockchain Week is coming up in May. And there's Ethereal, which is an Ethereum conference. There's Consensus, which is a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency conference. And consensus for me to attend would be, I believe, $2,400 to attend this conference. So, you know, look, CoinDesk runs consensus, and they're entitled to charge whatever they want. This is a free market. It's capitalism. Great. The issue is, and I believe this is what Vitalik was getting at when he said, I'm not going because the price is too high. I think his point is, look, you're charging $2,400 for people to get in. You have sponsors out the wazoo. CoinDesk is profiting from this a lot. The audience, the side effect is the audience inside of that conference is going to be wealthy people. It's going to be business people. It's going to be people in the 1% that can actually afford to go. Bitcoin, Ethereum, these open blockchain technologies are about community. They're about the people. It's supposed to be a people-powered movement. And more we're seeing this centralization occurring, not just with mining power and not just on the technical side, but with thought power. And when you have these conferences that are limited to just this small group of people that can afford to go, you're creating a thought leadership that we really don't need. You know, I think that's what he was getting at.
It contributes to that, what was it, information asymmetry Trace usually talks about, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. That was really, you know, and I thought it was a great distinction between that sort of event and the one I went to, which still was 700 people, $40 a ticket. You know, all the proceeds went to benefit the local meetup group. And that, to me, epitomizes what we should be striving for.
Usually, I want to say, usually you can tell the difference. The events that call themselves blockchain and avoid the name Bitcoin, you should be leery of. The ones that say, hey, this is a Bitcoin meetup, we have some special guests, those are the OGs. Those are the hardcore people. Hey, decide on your own people, though. But there are a lot of big talkers out there, a lot of guys who want to be on pedestals, who want to sell your ICOs. And, you know, Chris, you said it, who've got the bikini girl. If you're in an event with bikini girls, you're probably I think it's a waste of most people's time. I mean, if you really value education, for me, going to events is about learning and meeting people and being in motion, not like getting pitched some ICO and feeling special because I paid $2,400 a ticket. And
not having your forebrain or hindbrain hijacked, right?
Exactly.
Look, you know, it really is an open space, but again, that's an ideological perspective. You know, you're gonna find that the wealthy are gonna move into a space that they feel as though they can take control of. And again, this just gets back to that whole difference between where you stand. You can't be neutral on a moving train, is one of the things Chomsky had talked about, and that's very true in this space. You cannot be neutral.
Hey, I say if people want to blow a lot of money in this space, then come into the space because they will start buying things that we get for free. They'll buy our crypto dividends and they'll boost the price of Bitcoin. Hey, I mean, there's a positive side to the coin also about, and you know, and let the market judge who's sincere and who's not sincere in terms of where you get your information from. But I mean, if a lot of blind spenders want to come in, there's always going to be more 80%ers than 20%ers. That's the nature of the game. So if they want to pump up everything and create, because the next bubble, there will be another bubble, and we'll see all the nonsense that we saw in December again. So
yeah, it's like a clear cycle, and
it's cyclical. It's so cyclical.
Oh my God, when the big institutions get into this, they're going to take that 10% moves, and they're going to run away with whatever it can. They're going to reduce it to at least the 2%, 0.5% here, as they move money in and out. But it really does, I think, in terms of strategies, this is why I liked Adam's perspective about strong hands. You know, literally, they can put money into that. I want them to put money into my pocket because I'm going to do something with it.
Yeah, exactly. Let them pump it. Chris, yes. Chris was going to say something.
Yeah, and just, you know, I'm a big believer in keeping Bitcoin powered by people and having people in charge, and not having things like the New York agreement happening where a bunch of companies can get in a room and make decisions about things. And one of my goals hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months, is to start organizing bigger events, more accessible to everybody. I would love to see 10,000 people, 10,000 Bitcoiners show up in one place, whether it's a field or a stadium or something, and make it super cheap, just enough to cover costs.
What side of the pond are you?
Speakers.
What side are you in the Jersey side?
In the US.
No,
yeah,
no.
in Jersey.
Yeah, I'm here too, man. We got to meet up.
Yeah.
We'll start it.
So I would love to, look, if you would love to see 10,000 people meet up in a field and we organize something where it's organic and awesome and not have things like consensus taking over the thought leadership, then shoot me a tweet, because I want to organize like a little committee and actually make this happen. So I'm big on this idea.
So Chris,
I don't know if I'll be in a field with 10,000 people, though. I don't want no Woodstock up in there, but I think I can definitely handle getting together.
The guy who put on the Los Angeles event I just spoke at, Anders, I don't know if he's watching. I got to get you hooked up with Anders on the West Coast, because he's got the same mentality that you. He's on the same page as you. This is great. Look, people are in motion, networking on this very show. You're seeing it live, people. Pound that freaking like button. All right. Well, we're getting toward the end of the show here, and I'm glad we're all talking about our individual interest here. Brian, is there anything thank you very much for being on the show, first of all, Brian. You made a great debut. Anything that we left off from that happened this week in Bitcoin that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to promote? Anything that you want to reply to that you didn't get a chance to say before?
No, I thoroughly enjoyed being on. Thank you for having me. I'll certainly love to come on again. What I want to say is, of course, you guys are over in the good old US of A, and I'm over here in tiny little Blighty. So if there's anybody out there in the south of England, I would love to get together, get some kind of meetup going somehow, so that we can talk Bitcoin. That's all I really want to say. I just want to connect with people that are in the south of England and see what we can do our end.
That is really important. This is great. His Twitter information is below. I know plenty of people from England watch this show. There's probably something that exists already. Who knows? Maybe there isn't where you're at. Everyone contact Brian. That's awesome. Meeting in person.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
Just one thing. I've already connected with Nobby, who you had on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Awesome.
And so he's literally probably less than 25 miles from me, which is magic. So we're starting.
Are you guys near Bristol, or I don't even?
I'm very near Bristol. Yeah.
Well, what's his face? Renegade Investor, I think, is in. He's been on my show before. He's in Bristol, I think. But yeah, Bristol people come together right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Russell, what has been left off? What do you have to say? What do you have to promote?
Well, look, I just think, again, we just got to have our head right where it's, this is a historical moment, in my opinion. It really, truly is. And, a lot of people are just not going to get it. They're going to get it maybe another 10 years, another 5 years. The smart ones, hopefully, are the ones that end up with this. Honestly, I see them doing more with it. But I think there is a deeper humanitarian issue that can be addressed with this. Once we have money that's decentralized, we can work towards other things and decentralize more of our lives, especially where we spend 8 hours of our lives in these jobs, right? So I'm interested in seeing what this can actually do in terms of social justice. But I think it's still interesting. As much as the issue of brand came up, right? We don't know how this will play out. If some guy can throw a wrench, have at it. I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens in the courts in terms of, where it stands and how it's going to act from this. That might be an interesting thing. But again, it could be a double-edged sword. So,
yeah, I think poking and prodding at Bitcoin, testing it, giving it challenges is great. It's passed all the tests. It just becomes stronger and stronger. So that's why I welcome people abusing the Bitcoin name. I think then everyone in the Bitcoin community clears it up. I mean, there was a tweet the other day saying how amazing this community is. All these smart and now somewhat wealthy people scattered all over the world, just bonded over this one. It's a unique community that's nothing like this has ever existed before. It's just, what a time. What a time.
No, I could definitely agree that it represents a unique attack. So, it will be interesting to see how it works because, hey, Andreas said it best, Bitcoin's going to continue to remain in the sewers and it's going to be the best sewer rat out there.
I knew you were going to. I knew you were going to bring that when you said. I knew you were going to bring up the sewer rat one. That was a great talk on his.
It's a genius conversation. That's why if I had somebody new, I would recommend Andreas Antonopoulos each and every time, even though that guy has me blocked on Twitter.
You do. I'm blocked by Nicole.
I love him.
You're,
You know what? If Andreas blocks me, I deserved it. You know?
you're outspoken. You can be very outspoken, and I mean, whatever. Andreas is kind of picky. He blocks. Yeah, he's a blocker. I don't block anyone on Twitter, by the way, and I let all the trolls go wild in my chat. I mean, people are like, who are these madmen? I'm like, I don't care. I just don't even. I don't censor because they prove how foolish they are. Okay. Anyway, Chris, tie it. Oh, wait a second. Hang on. Before we get to Chris, someone just sent something in the super chat. Check your 6 and $5. Bitcoin can gain traction faster if it captures the 55 and older crowd that has the real money to invest. They are the ones being scammed by King of the Trolls. I'm not going to say who he said. Very interesting point. Check your 6. Yeah, of course, but it's hard to get the 55-year and older crowd. It's not impossible, but yeah, if we really got them in there, they do have.
I'm trying.
He's trying, and so is Bill Martin over in the chat now too. He's good with that too. All right, Chris, a lot has been said. The floor is yours. Yeah. You can talk and talk for as long as you want to now. What's going on?
I think, one of the most important things that was said here was, that everybody has to start somewhere with learning, and I had a tweet the other day that it was like a Kanye level, like Trump level, like I think I was in the bathroom and typed it, just pounded it, and it got like 600 likes. It was every Bitcoin supporter started out as a skeptic, and I think that at least for me and, for a lot of people that I know, and for us apparently, every Bitcoin supporter starts out as a person who looks at it and says, that'll never work, and of course I got a bunch of replies saying, F you, I wasn't a skeptic, but whatever. That's not the point. The point is when you're now somebody who understands it and you're no longer a skeptic and you're talking to somebody who doesn't get it yet, you got to expect them to be a skeptic, and you need to figure out your tactics ahead of time on how to deal with that. And you need to be patient with them, and you need to walk them through the process that you went through in order to get to the point where you were no longer a skeptic. So expect resistance, be patient with people when you're talking with them, and just understand that it is a journey that they need to take that they haven't taken yet, but you already have. And they will get there eventually if you're patient with them and if you just keep on explaining it.
Yes, when it comes to education, people, be patient with the newbies. Hey, check your 6. Thank you. I didn't say thank you for that. Thank you for all the people in the chat and that gave in the super chat and everything. I really appreciate it. All right, we're going to sign off real soon, but did any of you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I wanted to actually say something in terms of, getting Bitcoin, I think, is a moving target. Like, the minute you think you got it, this thing is evolving so quick. Like, that's why I always talk about the Bitcoin Hydra. To me, there's a final concept in place here. It's just going to be layered, multi-token. That could be a totally different thing to understand than Bitcoin now.
Dude, that's a great point to tie it off on, actually, Russell, because it is once you think you've got it, then something new. Crypto, we thought we understood it at the beginning of 2017. All of a sudden, they come up the crypto dividends, and it's totally different. And it's a total new way of looking at it. What is next? That is the excitement. What is next in the evolution of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Bitcoin Hydra is next, man. I keep telling people.
Dude, whatever is next, it is going to. I am looking forward to it. And no matter what your age, this thing changes fast. And you can be 100 years old. You'll still be alive. You'll be 101 next year, and you'll get to see amazing things.
The one thing that hopefully never changes is decentralization. And I think that's the hardest part. I think even more harder than Bitcoin to get is the idea of decentralization. And I think that's the one thing we need to cling to.
Oh, yeah. Most people that get involved with altcoins have no clue about what decentralization is even. I'd say most people in cryptocurrency don't understand the decentralized aspect of it at all.
Yeah, but there's like so many aspects to Bitcoin as it evolves that becomes very important and central to it working. I mean, we have this thing where we say it's got to be open, decentralized, permissionless, censorship resistance. I would add, resistant to being prosecuted legally. I mean, there's tons of things that as it evolves, it's just adding these new things like, wow, this is important. And Bitcoin's the one that is embodying all these. And to me, all these altcoins are examples of failures. And these failures tell us why that blockchain is important.
Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin.
All right, that is the way we're gonna end it on that, guys. So thank you, guests. Thank you, people. Everyone, pound that like button. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. Check out the notes section below because all these guys are. You could check all these guys out. I know you're very interested in learning about these dudes and everything. Remember, This Week in Bitcoin is every Friday, and then every Saturday is the Beyond Bitcoin show where I talk about other subjects beyond Bitcoin and some cryptocurrency stuff. And then every other day of the week, I post at least one new show here every single day. You get some unique stuff, unique guests here, everybody. I will see you later. Thank you, everyone.